Trident Wargaming. Build it, paint it, play it. Hey everyone, welcome back. Another Trident Wargaming episode. Back-to-back bolt action. This is going to be part 2 of the Armies of Great Britain. And again, Jason is joining me. Welcome.
Hello.
So you ready for round 2?
Ready for round 2 of the British Blitz.
Pretty much, eh? Yeah, we kind of got through half of the book, really, and then the other half is pretty much all vehicles. So that's what this episode will be about. We'll be going through the vehicles. A lot of them are the same, so we're not going to entirely go through each and every one of them, but we'll do some short mentions of them. Essentially, lots of options, really. Just like their infantry and special rules, there's tons of options for tanks and armored cars as well, actually. Which is pretty cool. And we've seen a few of these on the tabletop. I know, Jason, you've run a few, and we've seen a couple of the other players have them mainly, like, I'd say probably Churchills. We see a lot of.
Churchills, Shermans, those kind. I do have a Valentine, but it's new.
Yep.
So it's never met the tabletop. But honestly, those are mostly and Stuarts.
Yes.
Yep. But those are mostly what I've seen, which is interesting because they have so many options.
Yeah, exactly. So, but again, before we go through there, anything new? Hobby front? Same as last time?
It was pretty much the same as last time. It's only been, a couple of days since the last
last
episode,
week.
So last filming or recording. So us working on the slow grow. Me and my son are slowly applying paint to model.
Nice.
Now working through them.
Yeah, and speaking of the slow grow, is first day last week. We had our slow grow usually on our drop-in nights, and it was quite successful. We had pretty much had a full house, so that was great. We had a lot of fun, a lot of people playing. We actually had 7 games going, which was great. Yeah. So, right on. Props on the community for jumping in hard on that, and had a lot of fun. A lot of faces came out, so it's good. I was glad to see that, and we'll have every second week. We'll have our drop-in nights and whatnot, so we'll see more people come out and whatnot too. So it was good mix of armies. It was good to see. There was, I think, 3 Japanese players. Which we haven't seen in a very long time, which is awesome. We got some Finns, American Airborne, Canadians, some I think SAS, and then the Desert Troops, the DAC.
Somebody, I don't know who brought those.
Yeah, I don't know. That bugger of a player, but and then there's more coming, of course. A couple other players who couldn't make it because they're in LVO. So we'll be going through that, and more players will come out, and I'm sure down after this episode, we might have a couple episodes, kind of recaps on LVO and whatnot happening down there. There's 2 of our players locally down at LVO, or we're at LVO on the past weekend. So Seen a whole bunch of pics that looks pretty good. Looks like a lot of players having fun and whatnot. So I spotted Chris in one of the pictures in the background. I kind of zoomed in and I was like, I found you.
You're playing Where's Waldo?
Yeah. So
it
was good. It was good. No, he sent me some pics and whatnot, but
sweet.
Looks like they had a good time. So it's good. And of course, we'll have events happening end of February. Actually, our event here will pop off. That'll be a lot of fun too. Some great prize support from Warlord Games. Their Tier 2 package.
Nice.
And on top of that, I got a little package from Rubicon as well. So, yeah, good selection. Players will have a good pick of goodies that they can get. So, essentially, every player should be able to get something. So, and there's enough a selection that it'll be worthwhile, right? So, but yeah,
I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'll be able to take a lot of pictures and whatnot of the games and just see everybody kind of throw down. So I still got to go through some missions and maybe put in some special little rules, stuff like bocage, stuff like the fences, like I mentioned to you before.
Oh yeah.
And then make the just have the missions, kind of. It might either be some of the missions might be kill points, the other missions will be objectives, kind of thing. None of those crazy fancy ones where you got to grab something and run it off the board,
Yeah.
We don't want to use those for events like that, but should be good. It'll be fun. Just to have people come out at the hall and have a good time. So
excellent.
Yeah. So, but getting into the actual episode, Great Britain and their tanks and armored cars and everything else. So I guess we can pop it off with, with the British, their tank design and whatnot. They kind of went with like light tanks, cruisers, and like heavy infantry tanks, from what I kind of recall. And a lot of them, I guess some of the heavier tanks were definitely slow.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, their initial concept of how tanks should be used is that they're basically there to support the infantry, and that's kind of it. It wasn't till the faster tanks, the light cruiser tanks that they had in the desert, those didn't come along till a little bit into it, near the very beginning. But the concept going into the war was that infantry tanks were it. So they only ever had to go as fast as the infantry.
Right.
They weren't used like we know tanks are used now. They weren't used to basically create a breakthrough and exploit it, basically punch through front lines and drive on past, through as deep as they can and start surrounding pockets of troops. That's what Heinz Guderian started mentioning and talking about. But the pretty much most of the Allies, if you look at their early war tanks, were all kind of lumbering, big old tanks designed to go about as fast as infantry can, and that's all they needed. So it wasn't until the war kind of started, or right before the war, where they thought maybe we should reevaluate this. Seems to be working okay for the Germans. I don't know.
Yeah.
This whole punching through and exploiting, breakthroughs.
True.
So that's where you see, the big difference here. The funny thing is that some of those, that big heavy tank design never quite left the British. They held on to it till the end with some of their designs, but how they were used altered. And then, of course, they went with more, quicker vehicles and organized them in such a way that they were designed to exploit that breakthrough.
Yeah. And they had their different roles, right? So
yeah,
it's interesting when you start looking at the tanks in tank selections in the book here. You will notice that a lot of them are essentially the same kind of design. The main cannon, the coaxial. Some of them have the MMGs. Some of them don't. There's a little sprinkle of HMGs here and there, and there's I think maybe two of the tanks that have the flamethrower. So, but as we're kind of going through this, you have when you start looking in the book, there's actually they got two special rules that you can apply to your tanks, and one of them is, I guess, used June 1944 and onward kind of thing, as they mention it. Essentially, it's the Cullen hedgerow cutter. So you can apply that for your games and whatnot. Going through the hedgerows and obstacles like that can clear a path, which would be great for one of the tables that I actually designed.
They're great for bocage.
Exactly. So for 10 points, it's cool. You can apply that. The other thing is Little John adapters?
Yeah, for the Tetrarch tank.
Yeah, so it's saying for the QF 2-pounder anti-tank guns, it's like an add-on. So you can, what is it? It's a +5 or 5+ for penetration.
Yeah, basically it increases the pen value of the, because normally it has the light anti-tank gun, which is a +4, but it ups it by +1.
Yeah, but it's not reliable, so I guess on a roll of a 1, it's broken.
Yeah.
And the crew has to spend a whole turn fixing. Yeah.
Basically, it's a little adapter that they screw into the end of the barrel.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's and the whole idea is that it's actually not quite as big. The breech is a little bit smaller than without the adapter, so that pressure kind of has to squeeze through a smaller opening, which you can imagine may or may not lead to problems.
Fair enough. And you'll see that a lot of the tanks actually do have the 2-pounder cannon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as we're going through here, the light tanks themselves, a lot of the earlier tanks are equipped with HMGs and MMGs. Some of them have multiple turrets, kind of things. So, the MK2 that they start off with, it's considered a 7+ armored car. Apparently, it's a 1 HMG and then it has a coaxial MMG. So, that's kind of, I guess it'd probably be kind of the standard of early war tanks. Just machine guns to support those infantry.
Yeah, and really you got to look is that most of the tanks you're facing are wee little babies.
Yeah, exactly.
No need to up gun until the enemy starts up armoring, and then it's kind of the arms race type cycle.
Yeah, that's true. And even the next one, the MK Vic there has the light autocannon instead. So you can see now that it's starting to armor up a little bit with its weapon. Again, it's a 7+ armored car. The Vickers 6-ton is a light tank. This one has the 2 turrets, so has that, or it can, I guess, take a light anti-tank gun with a coaxial, but you increase in points, and then again, it's a 7+ armor card. So if these are considered armored cars, they actually are not really going to be taking your tank slot.
No.
Right?
Yeah, we're still in the old armored car section.
Yeah. So that's interesting. You can take one of those and then actually take a larger tank later down the road. Then of course you have your Tetrarch, which I know you have one.
I have one. Yeah, with my airborne. It's not particularly a good tank, but the idea is that a tank is better than no tank, and if you land with a tank near enemy combatants that don't have tanks, then you're maybe one-upping.
Yeah, I guess so, eh?
But I don't know.
It's true.
They used to stuff these things into Horsa gliders, and or not the Horsas, the bigger one. I can't remember the name of it offhand. But anyway, they would stuff one in and glide it. I use the term loosely, to the ground. And
I'm sure they lost a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there you go. You got tanks behind the enemy lines.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's just a little tank. Little guy.
Just a
little guy.
Just a wee little baby.
Thing too is that that Tetrarch can actually have a light howitzer on it.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, especially in like doing an early war game. You'd be surprised. Like the light howitzers can do some work, especially on a tank.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the light howitzer for sure. I've recently been using my Matilda 2 with the I think it's the Matilda 2C version. But I might be corrected, but it has the light howitzer. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, you're probably not taking out any enemy tanks with that puppy, but it's generally you're only facing one.
Yeah.
So, and you can still throw pins on that tank. And I like the option of just being able to hit the infantry a little harder where I need to.
Yeah, and that's just it. Like with tanks, I find if I'm taking a medium howitzer, sometimes I will slug it at the enemy tank, and there's usually a good chance I'm going to hit it and hurt it. Right?
Yeah.
So now you're still a threat. You're still a threat to that enemy tank, but now you're a bigger threat to those veterans, the infantry,
Yeah.
Especially if you're getting a direct shot on them. So now your opponent really has to worry about that, but then at the same time still has to worry about, other weaponry that you have in your arsenal of your army that could lay some damage down on them or his infantry. So this one, it's interesting. You can only actually take it as a regular for 105 points. So, I mean, really for 105 points regular tank, that's not that bad.
No.
It's affordable, of course. Going with early war, you're going to have points to spare. So, definitely a good option. As for the other ones, you're looking a bit cheaper, probably anywhere from 25, 30, point difference. But I don't know, the weaponry, I prefer the Tetrarch for sure. Right.
Yeah.
And this is just all in a view of kind of comparing the tanks to what kind of would work a bit better, I guess, in games compared to not compared to really like the thematic history and stuff of when or what they were used in your armies, but you're able to do both. So by all means, use whatever you want.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Yeah, you're not going to see, Vickers 6-ton light tank in 1945 in reality with a very themed list, but with a fun whatever, with just a reinforced platoon. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. So next up, we end up going to the cruiser tanks, and there's actually a fair bit of them. So a lot of these were used, North Africa, I believe Greece, France, those areas. And there's even one, I think was mainly used as a training vehicle.
Yeah.
So you kind of start off with the A9 cruiser tank, and they go through to like A10s, A13s, the Covenanter. That's the one that's the training vehicle, and then you start going to Crusaders. But
yeah,
as you go ahead, James.
Some of these early ones are basically like the no-name brand.
Yeah.
Of tanks. They're specifically designed with cost savings.
Yeah.
In mind. So, if you think about what that means when you're trying to, literally your motive is to cut corners to save money, you're not going to end up with the best, most elite machines.
No, like as I'm looking at these, right? Like the first one, the A9 is still a 7+ armored car.
Yeah,
and
to be fair, too, the bolt action tank system is very generous to some of these tanks, because they're really in bolt action. They're basically just broken up into a couple of rough categories. They should be penalized far more than we're able to with the rule set in place, without it becoming very it's one of the things I love about bolt action is that it's not overly cumbersome.
No.
But one of the drawbacks is that it can be a little bit simplified, and in tanks, that's one of the places they've kind of simplified it. But as a bonus to that, some of these really crummy early war tanks aren't necessarily that bad in game.
Yeah, it's still a game, so I mean, it's still have some kind of effect in it. But as you can see, like when you're looking at these tanks, like point wise, they're pretty close. Inexperienced, anywhere from 84 points to 100 points. Regulars are anywhere from 105 to 125 until you get up to a certain tank, and then that's when things start to change here. But again, the A9, the A10, the A13s, the cruiser tanks, they seem to all be kind of equipped with the 2-pounder light anti-tank gun, coaxial MMGs, and then there's a variation of forward-facing MMGs and whatnot. Some of them have dual MMGs up front. Others can switch out for howitzers, right? Like the 3.7 light howitzer. And they've, as you're going through here, they kind of switched. There's a couple of them that are the 7+ armored cars, and then there's a couple of them that are 8+ light tanks. So whatever fits your design of your army, or however you're doing it, if you're trying to work with those tanks for a theater or for whatever era kind of you're playing, you have the options, right? So they're all there. Model wise, I'm not 100% sure if they even have some of these. I'm sure they're out there, but you do have options, which is good. Then you go into you start going into the Crusader, and now your points are going up, and this is, I believe, the first tank that you can actually get veteran status on. 162 points for a veteran tank.
Yeah.
And then you still have your light anti-tank gun with the coaxial, forward arcing MMG. And of course you can replace your anti-tank gun for a howitzer. So same kind of design, but now you can go to veteran and change things up too, right?
And the armor is 8, so now you're actually you're in tank range now, not a armored car, really.
Yeah, and most of these tanks are still early war. Some of them kind of go into mid war, but pretty early on still. And then you have, as you're going forward, there's still more cruiser tanks to go through, the Crusader tanks, right?
Yeah.
So you got a couple more. Again, there's one of the tanks that I think it's the MK6 Crusader 3, and it now gets a 6-pounder.
Yeah, it's
so
beefing it up.
Yeah. So 6-pounder, coaxial, 8+. There's no hull-mounted MMG, so that's all you got. But you can definitely see an increase in points now. 116 in experience, 145 reg, 174 vet. Would I go vet? Probably still wouldn't. It's just, for me, that tank's still not really worth going as a vet, but that's just me.
Yeah. I mean, maybe... so what's the points difference? 30 points, 29 points or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And you get the one extra on your morale? Okay. And really that's...
There's that, and then you get the extra roll for...
Oh, that's...
ignoring the pins.
That's right.
As a veteran, right? So...
Yeah, I'm not sure veteran is really worth it at all.
Tank-wise?
No.
Yeah.
No, where it is worth it is on American tanks.
Yes.
For sure, because you can get any tank where you can get the gyro stabilization. It can only be applied to veterans, so you get a move and shoot. No move and shoot penalty. Boom. 100% worth it. Other tanks, I don't know. Unless you're going for some kind of theme, or that's the idea, or I don't know that it really adds a whole lot as compared to infantry, where veteran is actually quite a big deal. It increases your morale. It makes it significantly harder to kill you. Those are big bonuses. So, yeah.
And then next up we have the Cromwell.
Oh, cheerio.
So, yeah, now you've gone into the medium anti-tank cannon and coaxial.
And a 9+ armor value. So exactly. we're actually starting to get into to medium tanks here.
Yeah. And they have the option for the 6-pounder, and they have they can replace it for a 95mm medium howitzer, which is interesting because now you're now in a medium howitzer.
Yeah.
Which can definitely do some work. It's regular 205 points, so you can see the price going up. You got a Centaur next, I guess used by the Royal Marines and whatnot. I guess there was 80 of them made, so not that many, but medium howitzer for its main gun. Mm-hmm. So it's popping something open. 9+, medium tank, coaxial, and I guess a hull MMG as well. So a little bit more expensive than the Cromwell, but depending on what you like for your tanks.
Certainly cool if you're going with a Royal Marines list.
Mm-hmm.
Fun
for sure.
Fun to add that.
The flavor to it. Yeah. Yeah. Next up, Challenger. Big points on this, Papa.
Yeah. Well,
and you'll see why.
Yeah, you're adding we're still in the medium tank. You're adding a 17-pounder super heavy anti-tank gun.
Yeah,
which that's a punch. That's a tank killer.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's definitely late war tank. 44, 45 points really go up on this one.
Yeah.
Inexperience is 244. Right? So, I mean, you're not going to take it as an experience. It's going to be regular, more than likely a 305.
Yeah.
So, but it has a big cannon and it's going to hurt when it hits. So, I can't remember if anybody used it in the tank war battle. Can't remember.
I can't remember at all. I don't.
Yeah, I thought Brandon maybe had some, but next one is the Comet. Another famous name for tank.
Yep.
And again, super heavy as well. So, very similar to the Challenger, except that it has some heavy frontal armor.
Yeah, so a 10 on the front.
10 plus. It's pretty good. Pretty good. It's a big point sink. You can't even take inexperience on this thing.
Big time. Yeah.
So as you can see, we're starting to really jump into the bigger tanks now and more points, of course, which to me has always kind of been an issue for tanks. Do I really want to spend that much, on the tanks?
Yeah, they're certainly much more viable using some of the early war tanks, because all the last couple of tanks are all late war, hence the bigger guns, hence the more expense.
Yeah, for sure. But you also got to consider with going through these tanks and stuff, if tanks is your jam, if you really like playing tanks, like, don't forget there is tank war.
Yeah.
And that's where kind of going into these selections and whatnot, now you can start being like, oh, you know what? I'm going to take these. These are not bad for the era that I'm playing, or these will work really good, or they're cost effective, or I can get more of them, whatever the case may be.
Oh yeah, for sure. For tank war, any of these are decent.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Lots of options. So we have the infantry tanks.
There we go. So now we're back to early war.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to see a lot of them have the slow rule.
Yeah, and this is where I was talking about how they're slow, lumbering, but look at the time period here with the Matilda 1 and compare it, to where we started with the light tanks and cruiser tanks. This armor is 9 plus.
Yeah.
And its weapon is a turret-mounted HMG.
Yeah, that's it.
So really, its armament doesn't go up, or its armor doesn't really go up until a bit later. But the armament is what really gets beefed.
Yeah, 9 plus medium early war.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty hard to crack that.
Hard to crack that, because most of the tanks you're facing are firing, auto cannons maybe. At best, a light anti-tank gun. So pretty decent.
I mean, it's got an MM or HMG, so I mean, it's not going to be pulverizing things, but it still is going to be a threat because you're going to be able to fire that all the time, really.
Yeah, and it does cause pins.
Yep.
Right.
So,
and going against veteran infantry.
For sure.
HMGs are great at that. I find they're kind of underappreciated sometimes, but the fact that they can pin vehicles, armored vehicles, and they're quite good at taking out light vehicles. And when you can eliminate veterans a little bit easier, but it's not that bad of a weapon.
Oh, for sure. And not too pricey either for that one. So
no.
As you go through, like, you have a couple other Matildas that have different options. Of course, a lot of these were used in France and whatnot, and then you upgrade to like the 2-pounder light anti-tank gun with the coaxial.
Yeah.
Still 9+, but you can replace. I guess you can replace the cannon for a light howitzer. So you have that option, and then you have the Frog and the Murray.
Yep,
I believe it's called.
They're
and I guess they're they were used by Australians.
Yeah, so they're actually kind of used in late war in the jungles.
Yeah.
But then again, there's not a whole lot of tank battles, so they don't need great, huge anti-tank guns. Things that serve them better are machine guns, flamethrowers, those kind of weapon systems in those environments, and that's exactly what this guy is.
And this is the first tank that actually has a flamethrower on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, interesting to see that. It does have the volatile fuel tanks, so I can't quite remember, but I think there's some kind of bonus if or something to do when you're on fire, essentially, on the chart.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So, but yeah, there's that guy, which is pretty neat. And then you start going into the Valentine, however you say it, for, I guess, wherever you come from.
I call it Valentino.
Yeah.
It's not right, but that's what I call it.
But I guess a lot of these were made in Canada.
Yeah.
And then they were, I know the Soviets used them as well. And they also, I guess, they served a lot in like the desert.
Yep.
So definitely made its way around. Turret light anti-tank, coaxial MMG, 9+, medium tank, and again slow. So pretty basic concept to it. But
and for anybody that doesn't know or can't remember, slow is you only get to advance 6 inches instead of 9, and therefore run at a whopping 12. So you are quite limited on. This isn't the tank that's rip roaring up the field.
No.
No,
not at all. Not at all. And it pretty much goes with majority of the other Valentines as well. You the next one, you upgrade the cannon, so you're now at a medium anti-tank gun.
Mm-hmm.
Still the coaxial. The next one after that, again, same thing. 75 millimeter on this one though. So medium anti-tank gun. So still slow. So again, like they're very similar. They have the different types of tanks, like the Valentine 10 or 11. They kind of categorize them as in these kind of sections, and this is kind of like the basic equipment that they would have in gameplay.
Yeah.
So, but model wise and whatnot, whatever you find out there that you can throw together and pretty much fits the theme of your army and stuff. So,
And a lot of the variants, too, honestly, model-wise, there's not that big of a difference.
No.
So, and in fact, some of the differences are engine and chassis, turret, everything is exactly the same. Yeah. That's why sometimes when you buy a model kit, it will list, X tank version, A, B, and C. And you look at, what changed? Well, this one has a different headlight.
Yeah.
So,
but there's been some good kits. I think the T-34 for the Soviets, they have like 3 different turrets.
Yeah.
Casings, right? Sloped and squared off and this and that. Different time periods. So they're pretty decent. But again, there's lots of kits out there. You don't have to just strictly go with Warlord Games. There's a lot out there that you can pick out of. So it's pretty good. And they're getting better and better all the time. Next, we have the almighty Churchill.
The Churchill, yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. And then you look at its freaking service period.
Yeah.
1941 to 1945. And then its options, just because it served for so long, they didn't really, switch over to another tank. They just evolved this one. I mean,
essentially just kept upgrading it.
Exactly. Yeah. There's so many versions of it. And it's a heavy tank. It's a 10 plus armor.
10 plus, but she's slow, of course.
She's slow.
Model wise, she's big.
Yeah. 265 points for a regular is not bad considering the armor 10. Even with the slow, it can really perform its role as supporting the infantry quite thoroughly and with relative safety with that 10 plus armor.
And this one's interesting because you start off with a 6-pounder, so medium anti-tank, coaxial, Ford MMG. But you can switch it to a light anti-tank that also gets a the light howitzer on the hull instead.
Yeah.
Right? There's that option. Or you can drop it down to, I guess, the 2-pounder for minus 20 points. The next option is a 6-pounder with a 3-inch howitzer. And I guess you essentially gain a 3-inch howitzer on the turret on this one. And then you'll get a light anti-tank on, I think, the hull for this one as well. So there's like a lot of options to switch out, right? Which is interesting for that guy.
Yeah, this one makes me think a lot of Lehman Russ.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. That's pretty much what the tank really kind of is. But as you can see now too, like the next one, the Churchill, 7-8, I believe.
Yep.
Again, you're looking at medium anti-tank gun, has options, same kind of thing like howitzer, but
super heavy tank.
It's a super heavy, yeah. So 11 plus, and the points go up.
Oh, big time!
Quite heavily, yeah. So now you're getting to that territory, like you have this going up against German tank, Panther.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the Panther's going to outgun it quite quickly. So, but again, what's your flavor?
What's the flavor? Yeah, I don't know that I would be taking this puppy unless it was themed.
Yeah.
But then again, you're not going to have you don't have a lot of chances to have an 11 armor allied tank.
Yeah. No, that's true. And just with the game itself, right? Like, again, we're kind of looking at options and points and all these tanks, but essentially bolt action, I don't think really fits that category of, what's optimized or what's the most competitive kind of unit and whatnot, right? You'll recognize what units are really good for their points, of course, but essentially, like, if I have a Churchill on my wall, which I'm sure there is, I'm gonna build it because I think it's cool.
Yeah,
because I'm fitting it into an army that's that had it, that kind of thing, right? Options, essentially.
Oh yeah.
Just like the next two. You have your Churchill. I don't know if it's AVRE or what do they call that? Is the AV?
I think it's APRE.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was like,
but I call it Avra.
Yeah. So, like this one, it has essentially a heavy howitzer on it.
Yeah, and here's the thing: this one's not that crazy points wise. 290 for a regular. You got 10 plus armor because it's a heavy tank, and a heavy howitzer with a coax MMG and a whole mount MMG. A heavy howitzer, oi oi oi! In this game, you're just saying like there's not too many ways to tweak the melons of heavy howitzers are killers.
Well, and that's this one too. Like, it even says that like it can't fire the howitzer at long range.
Yeah.
It's the petard mortar, I guess it is.
Yeah.
That it essentially has. It's meant to level fortifications.
Yeah, it takes out bunkers.
So you advance this thing because it's slow. You would start advancing up, and you know what? If your opponent has guys bunkered in a building, well, this is the tank to do it.
This even
level the building.
Evens that out.
Right? Like, you're targeting the building, and more than likely it's going to be pretty easy to hit. So use it, right? And then have your infantry sweep in and take care of the rest if there's anything left, right?
And it looks kind of cool. I like the it fires basically a garbage can.
Yeah.
And it looks like that gun fires a garbage can. So
I don't think I actually seen this one, but yeah, I remember reading a bit of it, and it's just a big old mortar. So it's pretty neat. It's, again, like another option, right?
Yeah.
Then you have the Churchill Crocodile. Again, more options there with the flamethrower.
Yeah.
So
almost 500 points at regular.
Yeah, that's the crazy part.
But super heavy with a turret mount medium anti-tank gun, coaxial machine gun, and forward-facing hull-mounted flamethrower.
Yeah.
So you got a tank and a flamethrower tank.
Yep.
Pretty scary, and it looks hella cool with the trailer.
I think Dusty used something else against me. I thought it was that tank, but it was a LVT with a flamethrower.
Oh yeah, so nasty.
Just took care of my my Russian tank. I can't remember the KV that I had.
Yeah, if you can get it up close and personal, it can really just wreck face.
Oh yeah. So that's kind of the British like tanks specifically there, and then it has a section where they have a whole other bunch of tanks, but essentially it's like the American tanks that were used by the British, which is pretty neat because they have now more options. So you have your Stuarts, you have your Lees and Grants, your Shermans, of course. What else?
Glorious Shermans.
Yeah.
I only have 24 of them.
Locusts, Chaffies. So there's a lot of them in here. As you start looking through like these Stuarts and whatnot, very much the same, equipped the same. Light anti-tank guns, MMGs, usually dual MMGs on some of them. Some of them are vulnerable, so they get an extra +1 on pen against them. And then they have, so the Stuart has the option of becoming recce. Essentially, they replace the turret with a pintle-mounted HMG.
Mm-hmm.
And it confers recce, but they're also now open-topped. So lighter tanks with a lot of machine guns that can, bait and switch kind of other enemy tanks or units. So having other units commit to go against them as they withdraw and zip around.
Yeah. And recce is great. It's an amazing rule in the game. And to have recce with a 8+ at 135 points, not bad.
No, not at all.
Not bad at all, really.
So it's good that you have that option. It's a fast little tank. And as you go through, like I said, they are equipped fairly the same. Except for the Stuart 6. I guess it has like a reinforced armor.
Oh, yeah.
On the front, so we could go to a 9+. And that's kind of like mid to late war as you start going through that. Points aren't too bad. They all range. Like if we're looking at regulars, you're looking at like lowest cost is 115, highest cost is like 155.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not bad at all, right? So, and then you start going up to some of the larger tanks. The M3 Lee and the Grant, which are, to me, they kind of look pretty much almost identical, really. So, again, you got this tank that has essentially 2 anti-tank guns on it and MMGs.
Yeah.
At 9+ armor. So medium light anti-tanks. So not too bad. Has a couple different rules where it's easily catches on fire, so that's adding like D3 pins rather than 1 on the fire chart on the damage table. So
and vulnerable.
Essentially it's pretty much they're given rules for tanks of that time at what they came across to what they essentially found out about them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And what else we got here? The Lees, pretty much the same. Grant 2. Prices start going up. Same equipment, essentially. Then you start to jump into the Sherman medium tank, the almighty Sherman.
The Shermanator. The Shermster.
The most common tank you probably see people field. For Americans, for Brits, probably.
I mean...
tank war.
Oh.
So...
The reality is they produce like a bajillion of these tanks, so...
Yeah, they did. And there's multiple options for these tanks. Essentially your medium anti-tank guns, or anti-tank turrets, coaxials, other MMGs on them. Some of them have a few different rules where they usually catch on fire, that kind of stuff. as you're looking at like the early Shermans.
Yeah.
Zippos or whatever. And as you start going a little later, they start getting some decent weaponry.
Yeah.
And prices are still not bad.
No.
Right? Like right now I'm looking at a Sherman 2A, 3A. Essentially $235 for a regular, and it gets a mounted heavy anti-tank gun with a coaxial and a hull-mounted MMG 9+ medium tank. Doesn't have easily catch fire or anything like that.
Yeah.
Pretty decent, right? You got another one that has a medium howitzer. That one has a couple different rules, so you just have to watch out for that. Medium howitzer. Fireflies.
Firefly with the super heavy anti-tank gun.
Yep. And again, 300 points essentially for that one for a regular. So not too bad. You know, you can probably field, what is it? Depending on what tanks like Germans use. You know, if they're going with the bigger cats, you might be able to get 2 of these for their 1, essentially.
Yeah, well, isn't the King Tiger is 666 points?
Mm-hmm. So there you have it right there.
So
you have 2 of these for 1. So it's they're definitely, I think, worth their points.
Yeah.
You know, looking at them.
Yeah, if you know you're coming up against some big tanks, I mean, you can't go wrong.
And they look great.
And they look really cool. I love the look of the Sherman.
Yeah, I think I got 2 Fireflies myself.
Yeah, I got a couple. I need 1 more Firefly and a recovery vehicle, and I have an entire company.
And they have the Sherman 5.
Yep.
That's I guess that's a howitzer on that one, eh?
Nope.
Huh.
Nope, it's they might have that option.
Yeah.
But I believe its main gun is the medium anti-tank gun.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I think that was one of the first ones I picked up, was that one. And just because it had the British flag on it for usability, right? So
yeah,
which is pretty cool. Of course, Americans will have a whole bunch of other ones.
Yep.
But yeah, these were the options for the Brits in this book, at least. And I'm sure there's more down the road as you start looking to like theater selectors and whatnot. You'll probably find different ones here and there, accessibility to them. And then you, I guess you got a couple more light tanks, like the M22 Locust. Again, probably comparable to your Tetrarch.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
I just love this option. Maybe given Recce for 10 points.
Yeah.
All the time.
Oh, every day of the week.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, please.
Same thing with the Chaffee. Tony uses the Chaffee, I think.
Yeah.
8+ light tank has that. It does have vulnerable, so not too bad, but yeah, good little tanks.
Great little tanks.
Yeah. And you got some tank destroyers, of course. There's a fair bit of tank destroyers and self-propelled artillery.
Now, this might surprise you, Andy, but tank destroyers were used to destroy tanks.
Yeah.
So you're not finding any howitzers on these puppies. They're all the heaviest guns they had access to for the time they're released.
Yeah,
you know,
it's funny because like I tend to, I don't know, I've always kind of liked tank destroyers myself.
Yeah.
You know, not just always in like tabletop games, but at other games too. You know, I've always kind of had a thing for tank destroyers, like the way they look and whatnot, but just their whole purpose, tank hunters essentially, right?
Totally.
Would you have as you go through here, you have the like the Porties. Looks like they're kind of like the earlier war anti-tank gun kind of platform, soft skin, so pretty easy to take out.
Yeah, so it's basically a truck with a cannon in it.
Yeah, and most of the nations had some kind of sort of thing like that, right?
Yep.
You have the Deacon,
built on a Bedford or Austin 3-ton.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. The Deacon, again, armored car, anti-tank gun, medium. Archers, rear-facing, super heavy.
Yeah.
Anti-tank gun. So this was an interesting one. So I remember seeing this tank in one of the games I used to play. And yeah, you had to like turn it around to actually fire its weapon because of the way it was designed. But rear-facing 17-pounder super heavy anti-tank gun. It's interesting because
it was built on
fired in the rear.
This is built on the Valentine tank chassis, and it apparently wasn't able to support the gun facing forward.
Oh, geez.
So they did a workaround and made it so that you fire it backwards. Okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I guess they made like 600 and some of them.
Yeah.
So interesting. I don't know if I'll ever see a model of that, but we'll see.
Eventually, I will like Pokemon trainers.
Yeah.
I will have them
Gotta
all.
Catch them all. You have some auto cars. They're essentially medium anti-tank guns, armored carriers.
They're stuck on a half track.
Yeah. Open topped, that kind of thing. You got your M10 Wolverine.
Beauty.
Just familiar one.
It looks so cool.
Mm-hmm. Heavy mounted tank gun and 175 points regular. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right. Next up, your Achilles. Super heavy anti-tank gun. 8+. Open topped. Essentially kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Except pricier.
Pretty much.
Way pricier.
And it was basically just an M10 tank destroyer, the American one, but it had the 17-pounder instead.
I had to make it British.
I got a British buy it.
Yeah. So that's kind of it for like.
That's it for the destroyers, and
destroyers.
In my opinion, in this game, SPG really can be brutal. Self-propelled artillery or guns, self-propelled artillery.
Yep.
Can be absolutely brutal. You have the mobility that you don't have with the artillery guns, your regular fixed artillery. One of their biggest vulnerabilities or spots where they're lacking is that if you have to move that thing in order to get a shot, you're probably it's just dead, like a point sink. It's not going to contribute, or if you're playing on a really dense battlefield and your spotter gets taken out, or whatever. There's a lot of times where it just can't contribute as much as you want it to.
Yeah.
Because of that. And these SPGs change that quite easily by ripping to a new location, in a turn instead of, humping it with your, if it's a light enough gun, moving it 6 inches at a time, or
that's true.
Waiting for your, getting your truck to hook it up and transporting it wherever it wants to go, and then unhooking. And
in game, it's you essentially lose a turn if you're moving, right? If you have to reposition, and it sucks because like I've used a lot of howitzers and whatnot, and having not being able to fire it, not being able to use its firepower, and most of the game you kind of get messed over by that.
Totally. It just sinks those points, and losing a turn is generous because that's if you can move it to a position where you can see something in that turn. It could be the rest of the game. I know I've played games where my spotter gets taken out and then I spend 3 turns moving my howitzer so that I can see something.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why these are mobile are pretty good. Yeah. And you got a bit of them, not too many, but as I was looking through here, you have your machine gun carrier, essentially machine guns on an armored carrier.
Yeah.
So it can turn on the spot, going full speed and reverse kind of thing. 3-inch mortar carrier. It's a medium mortar. 7+, turn on the spot again. Bishop, 25 SP pounder. That would be light howitzer.
Yep.
By the looks of it. And it's slow, so you gotta watch out with that guy. But it's a 9+ medium tank. Then you go to like the M7 Priest, and that's probably the most infamous one. I would probably say that name, the Priest.
Yeah.
Medium howitzer. Yep. HMG.
It's great. It's open topped, but
most of these will be, right?
Yeah, 8 armor. Yeah, that medium howitzer can be just a real pain in the membrane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not really a crazy amount of points. It's honestly not that much more than a 25 pounder with a tow.
Yeah. 160 points regular.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. You have the Sexton light howitzer. Has a little bit of a negative to it where you can't fire the main gun. You can fire either the main gun or the LMG, but not both. So, So really, you're probably, if it was me going with one of these tanks, it'd probably be the Priest.
Yeah, but honestly, though, looking at it in games terms, you lose an LMG, not that big of a deal, honestly.
Yeah.
But it's 120 points regular. And you know what? It's a light howitzer too, actually, compared to the medium howitzer. That's a big difference. Yeah.
Oh, otherwise, 3-inch mortar carrier, maybe. I know it's lighter.
Yeah.
But being able to turn on the spot and to actually execute like a full speed run rate.
Yeah.
Just to reposition if you needed to, right? That's actually pretty useful in a pinch.
Pretty decent for sure.
Yeah. So not too many options for them, but obviously they don't really have anything bigger than a medium. Leave those for the big guns, I guess. Anti-aircraft vehicles. Essentially the usual, Bofors AA gun, truck, heavy automatic cannon, has flak. All these will have flak on them. Polston A truck, automatic cannon. You can add, this one's interesting, you can add second, third, or fourth light autocan at 30 points per gun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of shots, but it's a lot of points.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the pull string gun is pretty cool looking too, though. Hey, you gotta put out the cool factor.
Oh, for sure. For sure. You got a Crusader 3, MK1, MK2, AA. Has
2 paired 20 millimeter light autocannons. Sweet.
Oh, yeah. You have, so you apparently you have a heavy autocannon, and then you can replace it with, the 2 paired lights. So, interesting.
Cool.
They're not that expensive either.
No.
These are really, really cheap.
And honestly, it's funny. You never see them. Never. No. I mean, very rarely. But they actually are quite decent, especially for the points. Like even that Polstern AA truck. It's a truck, sure. 45 points. Let's say you take all 4 light autocannons.
That's going to wreck infantry.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat.
And what is that? 120, 165 points?
Yeah.
That's a murderer. Like, I mean, it most likely doesn't fit your theme you're going for or whatever, but gosh darn it, it will kill.
True enough. Staghound AA.
That's what I call
2 turret-mounted paired, HMGs, plus a forward-facing hull-mounted MMG and recce. It has flak. It's an 8+ light tank for 130 points. It has some decent firepower and the ability to scoot when it needs to scoot,
Yeah.
So not bad.
Paired HMGs, 2 of them. That's hella good for that price. And recce.
Yeah.
Pretty decent. So, it's I feel in game terms these should wreck. But then again, I haven't played with them. So maybe it's like snipers. Snipers on paper are amazing, unbeatable. And then you play with them and everybody knows that they're probably not doing anything.
I hear you. Yeah, happens all the time. And then, of course, you run into armored cars. So I'm going to gather lots of MMGs.
Yeah, pretty much. Armor 7, nearly across the board. And that's what makes it armored, but not a tank. And light guns, either machine guns, MMG or HMG, or autocannons, light autocannons.
Yeah.
And a lot of these will have recce.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at, and it looks like all of them but probably one that I'm looking at right now. Yeah, all of them but one. The standard Beaverette light armored car Mark 1 doesn't. It's the only one that doesn't have recce. So, but you got so many options here, right? You got the Lanchester 6x4 armored car, MMGs, Marmon Harrington armored car, MMGs, or you can get like a 2-pounder, but it still has recce.
Yeah.
The Humber armored car, I think that's one I have. Again, autocannons.
Yeah.
You can switch out for light anti-tanks, or you can go with an HMG to make the Canadian Fox for minus 10 points. Which is cool that they put that in there. Of course, us being Canadian boys, right? So
you got to throw the mention in there, and you do have the Humber if you got the Gentleman's War.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's the vehicle that comes in it. Which, by the way, it's a great little little kit in there. Not sure when they're or if they're going to make it available separate, but
that's true. Yeah,
I don't see why not. But
they have the Daimler armored car, turn mounted 2-pounder coaxial recce, Hummer light reconnaissance car, the Humberette.
Ooh.
Yeah. So again, most of these are very similar. Light anti-tank gun. Some of them actually have light anti-tank rifles. And then you have just turrets with light anti-tank guns, MMGs, that kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So pretty straightforward. You have choices. You got the Daimler Dingo as well. Essentially, it's just an LMG. It's pretty cheap for points. So, pretty cool. Staghound, heavy armored car. Again, light anti-tank gun. So, I mean, you can pick and choose what you want to fit your army, to fit your theme. Some of the models look pretty good. Really great. They have like the armored car commander kind of out at the top, the little radio kind of thing that they're talking about.
Then you kind of get into the other side of this category is the Jeeps and trucks.
Yep.
Which, by the way, I have airborne Jeep, and I love it. I love it. You want to know why I love it?
Why?
Because it's amazing. The other reason, it's like 45 points, and I get twin forward-facing MMGs.
Nice.
Not bad, Frank. I don't know why I went with Frank, but yeah, 45 points, twin forward-facing MMGs, and
nice.
recce. Yeah, it's a Jeep, so it can get shot, but if you're careful with it, it's recce, and that's 10 shots in somebody's face. That's a lot. Even I can hit with that. 10 dice in my hand, I could probably hit.
Yeah, they got a few more options, right? The MA Greyhound, I should say.
Oh yeah, sorry, I skipped ahead. I saw the airborne G. Did I mention that I love it?
I like it because they talk about the Greyhound, they talk about the LRDG armored trucks, right? The armed trucks, which are just tons of machine guns on these trucks in the desert kind of thing, right?
Which, by the way, shout out to Rogue Heroes, which is an awesome show. If you want to get motivation to paint some LRDG armored trucks or SAS Jeeps, whew, fun. Anyway, Rando, sorry.
And that's the next one, actually, SAS Jeeps. So I know one of our members is doing, I think, SAS stuff right now for the Slow Grow.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
And
of course, you're British Airborne.
British Airborne, yep. And I got to give a shout out to Dusty, too, for our good buddy Dusty. He has a classic LRDG and SAS Desert Force, which can be brutal. It is a tough little force, and it has a whole lot of these trucks and Jeeps in there.
Trucks and Jeeps, and then guys that pop out with machine guns and submachine guns, which is pretty cool.
It's right up in your face.
And the models look pretty neat.
They look sweet, yeah. Yeah, British Airborne Jeep. I don't know if I said it, but I love it.
Next up is your probably next favorite is the Recce carriers.
Yeah, I got
Bren carriers.
I got a bunch of them. Right. It's a great option.
Yeah,
a lot of people will have one. Yeah. They'll have one or two, universal carriers kicking around. Boom. Make it.
Yep. Again, lots of LMGs, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So those are your options, tons of those. Then, of course, next you go into transports and tows. And we're not going to go too much detail with some of the basic trucks and whatnot. There might be a couple key mentions. It's usually the same thing across the board with machine guns and pintle mounts and
pretty much
whatnot. You got your Jeeps. You got a couple half tracks.
Your universal carrier is one. Armor 7, open top, but only 5 transport spots, which can be limiting, right?
Yeah. No,
but turn on the spot is a really good rule. Basically, you can execute a full speed run rate reverse, finishing the move facing in the direction of travel. So, like it says, may not use if towing. I feel that falls under the no shit Sherlock category, but okay, somebody would have tried.
Essentially. So, trucks, Jeeps, half tracks, the usual. A couple of mentions. The Kangaroo.
Nice.
You have the Priest Kangaroo. It's an 8+ light tank that has a capacity of 11 for transport and towing, of course. Mm-hmm. Forward-facing MMG, open-topped. You have the Ram Kangaroo, which Canadian used and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So they're essentially converted from like obsolete tanks, I guess.
Yep. Tony has a couple, so.
Yeah, he's used them, and they're pretty neat. Again, these are actually 9+ medium tanks for transports.
Yeah.
So 11 men. That's pretty good. You're pretty protected on that.
Oh, for sure.
So,
it's a bit beefy for a transport, but you know what? It's honestly not too crazy much more than Hanomag.
127 points for regular.
And what is a Hanomag? 90? Or
something
80,
like that.
85 or 90.
85, yeah.
So you get 30 points more, but I mean, you're getting a whole hell of a lot more armor.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you still have the MMG.
Yeah,
you can add to it. So actually, you go up in points, but it supports your troops, right? And just protects your troops getting to those key positions, which is really good.
Yeah.
Of course, you have a couple tractors down the road too, but yeah, the Kangaroos.
Your Buffalo.
They're pretty good.
For some
LVT Buffaloes. Yeah. Again, 7+ armor carrier. Now these puppies, I've had these used against me.
Yeah.
2 pintle mounted MMGs.
Yeah. And amphibious. I mean, you're not gonna run into that very often in a bolt action game.
No.
Mostly for a scenario. But if you do happen to have a river or something and you're not able to hide behind it, where everybody else has to go to that bridge or that crossing, these guys are just zipping across. That can be a real pain.
And the thing with the Buffalo is up to 24 men for transport capacity.
Yeah, it's friggin' huge.
That's huge, right?
Yeah.
So I've had this. I've played against this Dusty, one of his other armies.
Yeah, and it's brutal
when he throws up his units, because that's essentially what happens. Is bleh, two squads, commander, flamethrower team. They all come out. And it's like, okay, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
So that's it's pretty cool, and then the miniatures are pretty neat too. They're fairly bigger, but you can see why there's 24 people in there. So, and then they can lay down some firepower with all their MMGs, right? For 123 points, it's pretty good.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think Not in this book, but probably in some of the other books. I think there's one that can have like a flamethrower on it too. So.
Yeah, that's I think that's an American thing.
Yeah. And of course, you have your Terrapin amphibious truck. Essentially, it's just amphibious. So that's pretty much for like the vehicles and whatnot. We do have theater selectors. We're not going to go through these. I'm just going to make some mentions. You have kind of the Blitzkrieg, 39 to 42, Fall of France. You have Dad's Army, which would probably be a fun little project at some point. 1940-44, you have Raiders. And all of these have like different little special rules and stuff, right? So it gives you a good selection of stuff that you can play around with. You have Africa of 1940 to 43, theater selectors, Operation Compass, behind enemy lines. What else we got here? Operation Lightfoot, Tunisia as well. I think the British have probably the most theater selectors in their book compared to some of the other ones.
Yeah, well, you got to think they're committed in every theater of the war. So,
Fall of Singapore, Burma, Western Europe, Monte Cassino, Normandy, of course. What else we got here? Market Garden, which is a classic that tons of people go with. Into the Reich, that kind of stuff. So,
and again, a lot of these. Sorry.
I was just gonna say lots of options.
Yeah.
To even play around with, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great book, and lots of these theater selectors are addressed in greater detail in other, kind of theater-specific books. But these are great to get you started or get an idea. I really like the theater selectors. Even if I kind of look at a theater selector and then convert it as best as I can to, because a lot of tournaments and events is usually like a reinforced platoon. Most of these you can quasi convert. You don't obviously get all the options, but you can certainly get the feel by converting it to a reinforced platoon. And then I'll make it off of that theater selector, and then bear in mind how can I make it also work in a reinforced platoon, and bring that flavor to a regular game instead of a specific scenario or something. They're great. Yeah. It's a great way to add a little flavor without a whole lot of research. Each one usually gives you a couple of paragraphs of what it's about, an idea of where to start, and they're great.
Yeah, again, one of the books probably with tons of options. If you listen to the first podcast about the book, you'll hear about the infantry and all that stuff. As you're listening to this, of course, all the tanks and armored cars, SPGs, tank destroyers, all that kind of stuff, plus transports, and then, of course, theater selectors. So lots of options. Definitely has given me, thought of what I want to play next.
Nice.
As I've been playing Germans for the last probably year now, time to pull out a different army and start working on that as well after I finish these current Germans. Essentially, lots of good options. And I hope, you found that this episode helpful, just kind of going through some of the units.
Yeah, they're pretty much the Baskin Robbins of armies. I mean, they got every flavor.
Essentially, yeah. No, but it's nice because even looking at the tanks and whatnot too, like, I do have some of the cruiser tanks that I got from somebody's collection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just being able to throw some of them here and there. I ended up, you had a Matilda that you got off of me to work with, your army and stuff, which was pretty cool. I got 2 more, so one I'll keep for the British, the other one I'll probably maybe put it with my Soviet army kind of thing, right?
Sweet.
That kind of thing. I got tons of different Shermans that I could play around with, and then a couple of the Stuarts, which I think would be fun to play around with too, plus the Churchill, of course. But, even the SPGs would be nice to grab a priest. So not only like rule-wise and whatnot, miniature-wise, hobby-wise, ultimately there is tons of options in this army. If you like the airborne, you got that. You want commandos, even like I was telling you before, Jason, about doing, one of the tank units kind of thing, even from like the Market Garden.
Oh yeah,
I think, was it the Irish Guard or something like that? I can't. Yeah. So even doing that, like I ended up getting the little command vehicle for the commander for it, and just tons and tons of options. So if you're looking for an army, they're pretty good. And gotta say, Warlord's pretty good at their units and their little history background, and of course Osprey Publishing for beautiful layout of the book and the artwork and stuff as well. So like, it's pretty good. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Hopefully we'll have more of these going down the road. Let us know if you liked it. Maybe you didn't. Who knows? Let us know though. We'll try to throw in some tactics and stuff in there, and kind of what we think of units and whatnot. Of course, Jason, longtime guest as always. We'll always have his ideas and whatnot as well compared to mine, and sometimes we'll have Bill on the show. So hopefully, again, like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and leave comments. Let us know what you think. What's your favorite units? What are you working on? That kind of stuff. Love to hear it, right? Send me a list. We'd like to check it out. Compare thoughts and all that kind of stuff. So, thanks again, Jason.
No,
as always.
Worries.
And I guess we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Keep on rolling dice. Keep on checking out the socials. I'm sure you'll see a whole bunch of stuff from LVO shortly. We'll find out some stuff. I think we're going to have Chris on the show locally, one of our players who went to LVO.
Ooh.
I think Bill's going to be doing a recap of how the events went and stuff. That's pretty cool because Bill had actually sent me pictures of some selfies with him and John Russell and Jay, the tournament organizer there. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to see that. He sent them my way, and they're kind of waving, hey, what's up, So they've been really good. Event looks really good. A lot of nice armies. So we'll try to get see if they got some pictures for us, and go from there. So thanks for tuning in as always. Appreciate all the support and all the comments and all the likes. And we will catch you guys next time.
Bye.